Elizabeth Taylor gave the world decades of unforgettable performances, but the story most people never heard wasn't happening on any film set. It was unfolding quietly, in sculpture studios, on a commune in New Mexico, in hospital recovery rooms, and on a wooded property in upstate New York. 4 children. 4 completely different lives. And not one of them wanted anything to do with the spotlight that defined their mother's entire existence. Liza Todd never met her father. She was barely 8 months old when Mike Todd, the man Elizabeth described as the great love of her early life, died in a plane crash over New Mexico in 1958. She grew up with photographs instead of memories. And yet, rather than spending her life seeking the kind of attention that might have filled that absence, she went in the opposite direction entirely. She trained seriously as a sculptor, working in bronze, building a reputation in the fine art world that had absolutely nothing to do with her last name. According to people who worked alongside her for years, many of them had no idea whose daughter she was until someone else mentioned it. She married an artist, settled onto a quiet property in the Hudson Valley, raised 2 sons, and eventually turned her focus toward African wildlife conservation. One of her most talked-about pieces was a life-sized bronze dog cast using material recovered from the World Trade Center site, made not for a gallery sale, but out of something closer to personal grief. Maria came into the family under entirely different circumstances. Born in Munich in 1961, with a serious congenital hip condition, she was adopted by Taylor during her marriage to Eddie Fisher, and when Richard Burton came into their lives, he completed the adoption legally and became her father in every sense that mattered. What followed was one of the quieter, more remarkable stories in this family's history. Maria reportedly underwent close to 20 surgeries throughout her childhood, just to walk normally, each one requiring recovery, relearning, and a kind of courage most adults never have to find. By all accounts, Taylor refused to let those medical realities set Maria apart from her siblings. She was simply one of the 4. Today, according to reports, Maria lives a private life in Idaho, connected to her mother's charitable legacy and largely unknown to the people she passes on the street. Christopher Wilding's life took the most unexpected turn of all. When he married Aileen Getty in 1981, he married into one of the most haunted fortunes in American history, the Getty family, still carrying the shadow of a kidnapping that had shocked the world less than a decade earlier. The marriage eventually came apart, and in the mid-1980s, Aileen received an HIV diagnosis at a moment when that news could destroy a life publicly overnight. According to those close to the family, Elizabeth Taylor never distanced herself from her former daughter-in-law. Some who observed their relationship have suggested that watching Aileen navigate that diagnosis up close was part of what pulled Taylor into AIDS activism at a time when virtually no major public figure would go near the cause. Christopher has stayed quietly behind the camera in the film industry ever since. And then there's Michael, the eldest, who spent part of the 1970s living on a commune, later moved to Santa Fe, and eventually became a stone sculptor, carving marble and limestone in the New Mexico desert. A man who grew up inside the most photographed household on the planet and chose a craft where a single piece can take months and no one can edit out a wrong cut. 4 children. One left the cameras behind for a chisel. One quietly endured 20 surgeries and disappeared into a private life. One's marriage reshaped their mother's legacy on a global scale. And one traded Hollywood for a desert workshop and the slowness of stone. That, in the end, may be the most honest thing Elizabeth Taylor ever produced. If this story moved you, hit like and subscribe. There are plenty more like it waiting for you.